Okay, we're going to call committee of adjustment in session. It's November 20th. It's 3:30. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment by attending the meeting in person at the Alderton Community Center, which is here. Members of the public may also access the meeting, which will be live streamed on our Middlesex Center YouTube channel, or by contacting the municipal deputy clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting electronically. Members of the public wishing to appear as a delegation can register for the meeting by visiting middlesexcenter.ca/participating-council-meetings, or by contacting the municipal deputy clerk at 519-666-0190 by 4:30 p.m. on the Monday of the week of the scheduled meeting. All requests to delegate are subject to the provisions of the Middlesex Center Committee of Adjustment Procedure bylaws. Members of the public can choose to delegate in person or by electronic participation. Accessible formats and communication supports are available upon request. So moving on, are there any additions to the agenda? None. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. The Municipal Conflict of Interest Act requires any committee of adjustment members declaring a pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof, where the interest of a member of the Committee of Adjustment has not been disclosed by reason of the member's absence from the meeting, to disclose the interest at the first open meeting attended by the member of the Committee of Adjustment, and otherwise comply with the act. Are there any instances of conflict of interest? No. Okay. Okay. Yep. So the first item is to adopt the previous minutes of October 16th. So I'll ask for a motion. Councillor Shipley, Councillor Arts, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, on to current applications. I believe we have 4 of them. Members of the public that wish to receive further notification on any of the applications being considered today, I ask that you please send an email to the deputy clerk at middlesexcenter.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have questions on any of the applications being heard today, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our zoning policy, I would want all of you meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. Okay. The first file, application for minor variance A17, 2024, is filed by Jonathan Brossa. It pertains to lot coverage for an accessory building. And just to note, we have 2 pieces of correspondence, Nick and Jade Trombley and Paolo Rioti have both written to us. We have received them. I will now turn to the planner on this file, who is Dan Fitzgerald. I'll ask you to present your report, Dan.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks members of the committee. My name is Dan Fitzgerald. For those that don't know me, I'm manager of planning with Middlesex County and providing professional planning services here to Middlesex Center tonight. So the purpose and effect of this application, which is minor variance A17 2024, is to seek relief from Middlesex Center's bylaw as it does relate to the maximum lot size maximum lot coverage, rear yard setbacks, as well as the interior side yard setbacks for an accessory building that is located in the urban residential third density exception 8 zone. So in this particular case, the applicant is proposing a minimum rear yard setback of 0.965 meters, whereas 1.5 meters is required. A minimum side yard setback of 0.863 meters, where for the west side, and 0.91 meters for the right-hand side, whereas 1.5 meters is required. And then a maximum overall lot coverage of 6.85%, whereas a maximum of 4.5% is permitted. And again, the effect of this would be to permit the construction of 1 accessory structure in the rear yard of this property. So it is located on the north side of Winlow Way, east of the intersection at Winlow and Crestview Drive, surrounded by medium density residential development to the north, east, and west, as well as single detached dwellings to the south. It is designated settlement area in the county's official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and note that it is zoned urban residential third density exception 8 in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So I have reviewed the requested minor variance against the Planning Act tests. Generally, the impact of the increase in size as well as reduction to the setbacks is considered appropriate given the lack of existing, given the lack of potential impact in neighboring parcels. The structure would be subordinate to the existing dwelling and located in the rear yard. Also, I do not anticipate negative impacts to adjacent parcels with respect to the size or setbacks. Given that it is again in the rear yard of the property and is fenced off. Also, it does meet the intent of the four tests of the Planning Act in that it's minor in nature. It is considered an appropriate use within this area. It does meet the intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. I would note that staff have circulated the application and did receive a few comments and questions from neighboring landowners. Most did, I would say, rescind their comments upon discussion with myself. Although one did note concerns that there are multiple structures in the rear yard of the property. It was just noted that the variance would only permit the maximum size for all accessory structures, and if there are other structures, they would have to be removed. So given the above, I am recommending approval of application A17-2024, subject to the conditions that are listed in the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I'll now turn to the applicant. I think he's in the audience. Do you wish to speak, Mr. Bosa? Are you okay with this? Do you wish to speak? Okay, can we press the button at the microphone?
I think, I don't know if you have any questions. Sorry about that. I'm not sure if you have any questions or concerns, but it was just his comment about the additional structures. So I had a shed on the concrete pad where the building structure is being built. So I just removed that off of the pad while the construction was being built, because I currently have my home gym in my garage, which I was looking to move into the shed in the backyard. So I have like my lawnmower and all of my tools and everything in that shed temporarily until the first structure is completed, the garage is emptied, and then I can move it out. So I'm not going to have the two structures in the backyard. It's just there temporarily until the first structure was complete.
Okay, thank you.
If that makes sense.
I think it does. Okay, you can turn off your mic now if you're done. Thank you. Is there anybody online for this? Okay, no one's online. So I'm going to turn to council. Does anybody in the community have any questions? Councilor Oates, go ahead.
Through the chair to Dan, if this structure gets built, the other accessory building and the gazebo, does it go to or does it stay? And how much cement can you put in a backyard? Because people are worried about where the water's going to go, and this structure is going to take up so much. And then if you put more patio, is there a limit to how much patio stone you can put in the backyard too? Because actually that's going to impede the amount of water that can filter into the ground.
Yeah, so through the chair, interesting question. We do get that quite often when it comes to neighbors altering their rear yards and adding patio areas and the likes, right? So generally speaking, I would say certainly there's existing grading plans that are approved with the subdivision design within the area. So it would be up to the building department to determine if there's impacts to that existing grading plan and design for the overall subdivision. In terms of actual hardscaping, there's no limitation in the bylaw that says you can only hardscape so much of your lot. They're effectively just required to deal with the water on their own site. So in the cases where we have accessory structures, similarly looking to reduce interior side yard setbacks or rear yard setbacks, commonly building will go out there and just require that the eaves trough in these particular cases gets redirected onto the property that it sits on and not directed off the property on the back or the rear. So there are avenues that if there are drainage concerns that any existing neighbor within the area can seek to reestablish or deal with any potential drainage issues.
And
Through the chair, Dan, one more question. Is a, a, a gazebo considered an accessory structure or does it have a classification or not? Like, I guess my question is, does it have to go to, or does it get to stay, or does it matter, or?
So through the chair, interesting question. We've actually had this debate many times with our building department. If a structure is technically considered temporary, like it can be easily removed from site, then generally speaking, we wouldn't consider that as a building on site taking up accessory building coverage. It's when it's built in a permanent nature that we would take it into consideration as a physical building on site.
You're good, Counselor Arts, okay? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Counselor. Sure, Dan. I guess my concern is the water at the back here with the roof on it, that. Like, is this something that we should have building department look at before this is approved, just to make sure we're not gonna. I don't wanna get caught in something we approved and it comes back on us because we approved it. The building department should be looking at this first.
Yes, so through the chair, absolutely. The building department has looked at the variance and didn't have any concerns with that. But the common remedy that they have in these particular situations is, again, in this particular case, you have a lean-to cell structure where all the water is heading off the back of the building. So the common remedy that building would require is that an eaves trough gets placed on the back to catch that water, and then a downspout redirected onto the property away from both the rear yard and the interior side yard. So that would be something that the applicant would have to fulfill through the building permit process.
Okay. All right.
Thank you through the chair to Dan. So just to clarify, so this isn't already built. There's just something else back there right now. And this is going to be built, correct?
So through the chair, it's my understanding that it is partially constructed at this point in time.
So one of the questions that I have is, so I did have the thought about the drainage as well, because I don't know that it's specifically between those that builder set of townhouses there, but there is some in there where there's a lot of chatter about drainage and it's still unassumed. And so I did, have a concern about the drainage as well. And I get what you're saying about the eaves trough and all that, and hopefully that's going to get followed through. So just in my own mind, one thing that I'm wondering about, so it's a townhouse, like normally you or the applicant gives us a drawing that'll show, here's the backyard, here's where the shed's going, and so we have a kind of a better idea of the size, because I'm thinking it's a townhouse and we've got 6.85, but that's probably because it's so little that this is going to take up a good majority of it. So I guess part of my whole complete package was I was curious to see what does that entail? Is it a 20 by 20 and the shed's a 10 by 10? You know what I mean? Or is it mostly his backyard's going to be concrete? That was just some of the wondering questions that I had about it.
You're gonna respond to it?
Yeah, so through the chair, yeah, certainly. So there is, I thought I had attached the applicant's plan that they have provided as part of the application. I see it's not on there, so I do apologize. But I can certainly forward that to committee members if they would like to see it. It is just a hand-drawn picture. Obviously, it's not to scale, but I would say the structure so the existing townhouse structure meets the required setback into the rear yard. So there is space back there for a structure of this size. But you're very much right in that it's because the size of the lot is limited, given that it's a townhouse structure, that any type of accessory building tends to cover a larger proportion of that site. So I'm not, what I would say to that is public works and engineering, building, planning. We didn't identify any potential concerns in terms of there's still lots of amenity space available at the back of the property. The shed's not gonna take up the entirety of that area. But again, I guess at the end of the day, it's up to the applicant and how they use it. And whether or not we consider that appropriate. So at 6.85%, it's really not that much considering, you know, we have a housekeeping amendment that's kind of waiting in limbo right now that allows as of right 10%.
All right. So I think the questions have been answered. My comment is, before the building permit is issued, our building department will go out and they could attach some site conditions, especially with respect to the drainage, correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's absolutely correct.
All right, we're at the point where I'm gonna ask, will somebody move this? Okay, mover, suitcase, seconder, Counselor Shipley. Okay, call the vote, all in favor? Okay, that's carried, Mr. Breslin. Okay. Clearly I didn't. Okay, let's move on to the next file. This one's application for minor variance A 18/2024. This application is posed by James and Christine Mann. It pertains to an accessory building. My record indicates there's no correspondence on this. From my perspective, the planner is Dan Fitzgerald. I'll call on Dan to make his report.
Yes, so through the chair, thanks members of the committee. The purpose and effect of application for minor variance A 18/2024 is to seek relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the maximum lot coverage and percentage for an accessory building in the restricted agricultural or the A2 zone. So the applicant is proposing to add an addition to the existing accessory structure in the format of a covered outdoor porch area, which does increase the maximum overall size of the building to 587 square meters. The structure was originally an agricultural use, not subject to maximum size regulations, so that's how we got here, kind of thing. How it is used now, though, it is considered residential, which then pushes it into those maximum residential accessory building size standards, being 165 square meters for a property. So the property is on the south side of Oxbow Drive. It's southwest of the intersection at Oxbow and Kamoka Road. It's designated agricultural in the county's official plan, and agricultural Middlesex Center's official plan. And as noted, it is zoned agricultural A2, which is the restricted agricultural zone. The property is generally surrounded by a active gravel pit extraction to the east and south, agricultural lands to the north. It contains an existing single detached dwelling as well as various agricultural accessory structures on site. So I have reviewed the requested minor variance against the Planning Act tests. Generally, the impact of the increase in size to the accessory structure is considered appropriate given the lack of existing neighboring development. It is also noted that the increased size is generally for a covered porch area and for aesthetic reasons. As such, it is not anticipated that negative impacts to adjacent parcels would occur in this case. So I am of the opinion the proposal meets the intent of the four tests of the Planning Act as it's minor in nature. It is an appropriate use and it does meet the intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. I have circulated the application in advance and did not receive any comments with respect to this proposal. So given the above, I am recommending approval of application A 18/2024, and I'm available obviously to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Is the applicant here? Yeah. Did you wish to speak, Jim? You don't have to, but if you wish to. Okay, thank you. Is anybody in line? No, nobody in the spot. Okay, I'm going to turn to the committee on this. Are there any comments or questions? No, okay, then we can entertain a mover. Counselor Shipley, seconded by Counselor Cates. Call the vote, all in favor? There you go. Pass, Jim. Next one is application for minor variance A 19/2024. the minor variance application filed by Luke Lislow on behalf of Jim Williamson. It pertains to an accessory building. On this file, we have comments from Sabo Bayfield Conservation Authority. The planner, once again, is Dan Fitzgerald. I'll turn to Dan to present his report.
Yes, through the chair, thanks members of the committee. This application for minor variance is file number A19-2024, and it does seek relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the maximum lot coverage as well as height for an accessory building that's located within the Hamlet residential first density zone. So the applicant is proposing a maximum lot coverage of 118 square meters or 4.3% lot coverage, whereas the bylaw permits a lot coverage of the lesser of 60 square meters or 3% lot coverage. They're also proposing a maximum height of 7.39 meters, whereas the maximum height permitted is 6 meters. And the effect of the variance is to permit the construction of a larger accessory structure with a high pitched roof, as well as to permit the existing overall size of the existing accessory structures on site. So the property is located on the west side of Denfield Road, north of the intersection at Denfield and 15 Mile. It's bordered by single family homes to the north, east, and south, and agricultural lands to the west. The subject property contains an existing single detached dwelling as well as an accessory structure in the rear. It is designated settlement area in the county's official plan, Hamlet and Middlesex Center's official plan, and zone Hamlet residential first density zone in the bylaw. So I generally have reviewed the variance against the Planning Act tests. The impact of the increase in size of the accessory structure is considered appropriate given that the size of the existing lot and structures located within close proximity would not be negatively impacted. Also, the structure would be subordinate to the existing single detached dwelling on the lands. I do not anticipate any negative impacts to the adjacent parcels with respect to the size and setbacks. And as such, I am of the opinion that the proposal does meet the intent of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, as it's minor in nature, is appropriate in use, and meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. So I did circulate the application in advance of the meeting here tonight and did not receive any comments from anyone in the public or agencies. I did receive a comment with respect to septic contingency areas as well as lot sizes. That being, why do we require contingency areas at consent if people develop within those areas afterwards? So I did discuss this with the building department. It is noted that we do find it best practice to ensure that the space for that contingency area is available at time of lot creation. However, we do note that the bylaw does not further regulate or require the contingency area to remain on site. As such, it's generally up to the homeowner's discretion to keep the space available for future use. In this particular case, should they need it in the future, they would be required to remove existing development to accommodate the replacement of the septic bed. So basically, if you want to build there, it's your responsibility in the future. So given the above, I am recommending approval of application A19-2024. And I'm certainly available to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to turn to the applicant. Is the applicant here or their agent? Yes, did you? All right. Did you wish to comment? You can if you want, but you certainly don't have to if you agree with what the planner stated. Okay, thank you. And is there anyone on the internet for this? No, okay. At this time, we'll turn to committee members for their comments, and sorry, she beat you to it. Councilor Cates?
Thank you. Through the chair today, and I just have a bit of a curiosity question. When you look at the detailed drawing that they sent, and you've got all the pool area and the golf, and it says proposed structure, and then you see proposed shop. So is this percent of lot coverage doing both of those in any buildings?
Yeah, so through the chair, that's exactly right. It's the entirety of the requested variance contemplates all the structures that are proposed.
Councilor Arts?
Through the chair to Dan, this is more of a observation than a question because our building department's not here. But I went for a drive, so I'm driving I'm trying to find the 911 number or sign and went by the first time. I realized it's in a window of the house. And then I noticed all these other houses. Some of them had a sign at the road for 911. Some of them had a nice big sign on the front lawn. Some of them, I don't know if they had a sign because I couldn't see it. So for our fire department, I was wondering, I was bringing this point up because maybe it's time we had some type of uniformity, because for the fire department, a fire is a fire, but if somebody's having a heart attack or whatever, and there's no signs on some of the houses, how are they supposed to go to the proper residence? So, thank you.
That was a comment for the record. Okay. I don't know who's gonna follow up on it, but maybe that could be referred to the fire department initially. Okay. Oh, Stephanie will. Okay. It's on to you, Stephanie. Okay, so I think we're at the point where everyone's asked their questions, made comments as appropriate. Mover on this application. Counselor Arts. Counselor Shipley. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, so it's approved. You're welcome. Okay. Next application is for consent pertaining to 3 severances: B162024, B192024, B2024, filed by Brian Partridge on behalf of PW Holdings Limited in order to sever 3 residential lots from one. There are 2 pieces of correspondence that I have record of, both against this, from a Greg Brown and a Kathy DeGursa. The planner and file is Dan Fitzgerald, so I'll now turn to Dan to present his report.
So through the chair, thanks members of the committee. The purpose and effect of this application for consent, that being B16/2024, B19/2024, and B20/2024, is to create 3 new residential lots for residential infill purposes for a property that's located at 10056 Oxbow Drive in Kamoka. So the application does seek to create 3 new residential lots in the format of 1 new lot at the corner of Valley View and Oxbow Drive with a frontage of 12.4 meters. The second with a frontage of 12.1 meters along Oxbow, and then the third, similarly, a frontage of 12.1 meters on Oxbow Drive. A 4th lot would be retained with the existing dwelling on the lands that would have frontage on Valley View. So the property is located on the northeast corner of the intersection at Valley View and Oxbow, and it is approximately 0.6 acres in size. It does maintain an existing single attached dwelling, which is connected to municipal services. The owner is proposing 1 new access to Oxbow Drive, where 2 of the lots would utilize the existing driveway entrances. An entrance is contemplated to be added to Valley View Drive for the existing residents on the property. It is designated urban settlement area in the county's official plan and residential in Middlesex Center's official plan. And it is zoned residential first density exception 3, which was traditionally used to ensure larger lot sizes when properties were subject to septic systems and septic beds. The properties no longer in this particular area require septic systems, as they have full access to municipal sanitary services and are connected. Generally speaking, the provincial policy statement 2024, County of Middlesex official plan, as well as Middlesex Center's official plan, all prioritize growth through intensification and as well as efficient utilization of the existing services within our communities. So the new PPS specifically prioritizes and requires intensification within our existing service settlement areas. And the intent here is to accommodate our existing growth and population within our settlement boundaries to stop expansion into our agricultural areas. Through circulation of the application, Public Works and Engineering staff did not note any concerns with the proposed severance. However, a number of public concerns have been received indicating opposition, mostly related to traffic concerns along Oxbow Drive, and noting that the proposed development does not meet the existing character within the larger area. With that said, staff are of the opinion that the severance is considered appropriate and does meet good planning rationale, supported by the conditions that are included in the recommendation report. With that said, though, I would note that if concerns exist regarding the number of lots proposed, the applicant has advised staff that they are willing to work to further revisit the proposal. So with that said, I stand behind my recommendation report. I am recommending approval of the consent application, again, subject to those conditions that are outlined in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I see there's nobody in attendance. Is there anybody online? Nobody's online. So now I'll turn to comments or questions from council. In this instance, Councilor Kate is chomping at the bit to be first. So go ahead.
Thank you through the chair to you, Dan, and anybody else. So I do have lots to say. I am happy to hear that he's willing to work with this. So just let me get it in the right order. I know, as you say, we got to encourage growth and intensification. I get that. I understand. But I think where I have a problem here is where's the line? So we have a 70, the UR 1-3 zone calls for 79-foot frontage of lots. And then there's a minimum lot area of 930. In this case, we would be taking the 79-foot down to 40. That's like half of the, this isn't a little tiny bit, or it's a lot. And so I did some research around all the lot sizes, because I understand this can say about back when they had septic systems, etc. But there's lots that are there at least for 10 years that don't have septic. They're all serviced. And pretty much everything that I found was minimum of 50. There was some at 65, 66 in that area. So even if we were to look at the 79-foot down to 66, maybe even 50, because we do have a lot of, a lot of 50-foots have been allowed over the past while. So I could probably live with 50, but I need to draw a line in the sand at 40, because I think that that's just crazy. And even if we, look at this as we have one lot currently, and if we can do something less, split it in half, even if you take the 3 new ones and make them 2 new ones, it's still going to give some good lot size. And at the end of the day, we have one lot that we've made into, let's say, 3. And so we still have our intensification there that everybody's calling for us to do. The other thing is about the laneways. When you and I talked about this, maybe they can make them all front on Valley View, which would take away from the traffic there. I think that part of our job as councillors in the area is to also, even municipally, is to even look at the specific area. And what's, what do we need to be aware of in that area? And one of the things is that road. It is a hill right there. I mean, we have a speed bump there. People say I can't see the speed bump. I come over the hill and there's a bump. Well, it does have a sign. But now we're going to have laneways there. And I heard what you said about they're asking for 2 to service the 4, which I didn't pick up on that before. But it's just a really busy area with the entrance to intersection of Valley View, and then a few feet and you got the intersection to Queen. It's a real blind spot, and I just think that it's too much for there, and it's too intense. I think I may have said all of my I get that it complies with the general intent, but what is the general intent? Again, 79 to 40. I think that it's you know, I think that these gotta stop, the little tiny things gotta stop. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Counselor Cates. You kept it under 5 minutes. Great. Okay. So any comments or questions then from the committee? None? Counselor Shipley? Yes, I see him. Just to support what Counselor Cates is saying, I gotta agree with this. We're going from basically, we're cutting it in half. My concern is we're gonna set precedents here tonight if we do this. So next person's gonna come in, well, 40, well, can I get 35 now? Like, this is my concern. We start down this road and where do you draw the line? Like, it's 79 feet and I feel we gotta leave it at 79, like Councilor Cates said, I could live with 50. Like, I could live with that too, but I'm just afraid if we get down to 40, what's gonna come after that? So I can't support this recommendation. I'm sorry. Okay, anything else, Counselor Arts? No, okay. So it looks like, what the committee would like done here is to refer this back to the planner to work with the applicant to reduce this from 3 to 2 lots. If everybody's in agreement with that, and then I would turn to Counselor Cates. You got anything more to add?
I think the only thing I forgot to add, which is past this now, but I was gonna talk about a 40-foot lot, and then they'd have to come back for minor variances, and then after all that's done, the person that's actually gonna build on there is then gonna come back because their house isn't gonna fit on there, and they're gonna want minor variances again. That was the other thing that I was gonna say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, the motion that I'm going to put out there is that we refer this back to the planner to work with the applicant to reduce the severance application from 3 lots to 2 lots. Okay, I think that covers it. And, I'll call for a motion. Counselor Cates, seconder, Counselor Shipley, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to item number 6, which is correspondence. There's one piece of correspondence here. It pertained to a file E192024, Sabo Bayfeld Conservation Authority. Can I get a motion to accept that? Anybody? Here it is. Counselor Cates, Counselor Shipley, all in favor? That's carried. Is there any other business before the committee? None. Okay. And now I'm going to move for adjournment. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Shipley, Counselor Cates, all in favor? The committee stands adjourned. Okay.